Once we start getting control of the mind, and we get control over this emotional realm, and we start to clean up our internal landscape, what you come to find is that a lot of the opposition that we saw externally goes away. It's your boy Zay-P, Zay-P the I am. I am that I am, as you are that you are, for we are all that we are. Your boy Zay is back at it, and I'm back with a brand new video. What do I want to talk about today? A lot of stuff has been coming up in the energies collectively. I've been experiencing a lot of angst in my own particular life. I want to talk about the opposition. The ones that, everybody in the hood talks about their ops. When we talk about the haters, the make-believe or the mythical they, in the them versus us conversation, you know what I mean, as far as just your overall enemies, the way we perceive the enemies in our lives. And sometimes a lot of the enemies that we might come up against are not often people. They're not often enemies in the sense that they're people, but they might just be obstacles. They may just be stumbling blocks. Sometimes some of that energy of the opposition can even come from loved ones, can even come from those closest to you. Now, the thing about that is, it's very hard to deal with when you feel like the people closest to you are the same exact people who are your opposition. And so with that can create a lot of friction. So how do we handle that when we come into these phases? How do we handle dealing with that opponent energy? And so I'm going to tap in, falling back into the energy. And right off the bat, I'm hearing my higher self automatically talking about the first thing that we need to recognize, that being that our main and primary and in actuality our only opposition is in here, is in the mind. Now, this is not to be confused with what some people say, where they say the mind itself is the enemy. The mind itself is a tool, but just like tools, they're neutral. They can be used for good. They can also create destruction and cause harm. Just depends on the person using it, depends on the intention, it depends on the skill set and the level of knowledge and awareness one has when it comes to working with the tools, right? If you give a little kid a heavy 12-volt drill, that kid might drill through their hand, and their intention was really to use the drill and do something good with it, but without the proper know-how, without the proper skill set, without the experience, they can still hurt themselves. So this is the same thing with the mind. When you don't know how to work with your mind, when you don't know how to grasp hold of the mind, control the mind itself, control the level of thoughts. Sometimes thoughts may seem uncontrollable, because sometimes they can just come in, they can roll in like waves and like tides in the water, and they can roll just out as quickly. Or we can grasp hold of them, we can attach to them, we can identify them, we can milk those thoughts and milk that energy that we get from them. Now, the way that works is that sometimes when it comes to the realm of thoughts, we can tap in and connect and pick up negative thoughts. But we can also tap in and connect and pick up positive thoughts. And depending on what we do when we tap into that energy, when we tap into those thought patterns, we can milk those things. We can hold on to it and squeeze it from every drop. Now, regardless of what the thought may be, the more we dwell on it, the more we think about it, that is milking the teeth, basically. We're milking that thought for as much emotion, for as much experience as we can get. So that is in the first step, to really recognize the thoughts that we're having and the ways that our mind might be running rampant that we are not in control of, and learning how to be. Because this is a huge fallacy that comes up in a lot of times when I'm working with my clients, and even when I just talk to other people. A lot of times people will talk about how difficult it is, how it takes a lot of work to constantly be trying to guard your mind, constantly be trying to be mindful, constantly be trying to be your best self. All of these things take effort. They do require work. They oftentimes will take some practice. maybe even some discipline. These are words that people are not commonly, they don't commonly resonate with. They don't commonly want to gravitate towards because they sound hard or difficult or intense, and it sounds like it might be work to strive towards. And so with that said, the same thing when it comes to learning how to control our minds, even learning how to be our best selves in as many moments as we can muster. It is all a practice and it's all an effort, and how often you come back to that, right? But the more you do it, the better you get. And so in the beginning, especially, people will quick to come to the excuse of, the mind does its own thing. I can't control my thoughts. Oh, it's so much work. I'm not a monk living in a mountain. And so we come up with all these excuses and all these reasons why we can't be disciplined, and we can't work towards having more control over our mind. But the thing is, it is very possible to get control over your mind. And when you do start to learn how to grasp control over your mind, then you can even start to learn how to manipulate it. Then you can start to learn how to, back to the idea of the thoughts, how to gravitate towards thoughts that are going to feed you, that are going to make you feel good, and how to milk the energy of that on purpose, right? Even if you look at your memories, for instance, and you go into your memory banks and you can tap into a positive memory, maybe something from your childhood, a good time where you felt loved, where you felt secure, surrounded by family, maybe a birthday, a holiday, you received gifts, you've had this wonderful, amazing experience. And when you tap into that energy, you reflect back, you can actually start to feel the heart expand. You can actually start to feel that energy ripple throughout your being, right? And that's when, if you choose to dwell in that space, see, because the thing is, we have this stigma with the word dwell, but if you choose to dwell in that positive, good feeling space, then you're going to be milking those good feeling energies. Then you're going to be having more moments of having that positive experience, that good feeling vibes. But what we do as humans commonly, and in our culture, is that we tend to gravitate towards the bad thoughts, towards the stressful thoughts, towards the negative thoughts, towards the judgments, the comparisons. And then we dwell there. We stay in those realms that are more negative, which is why we get a negative, stigmatized word like dwell. When we hear the word, oh, dwell, you're dwelling somewhere, you're staying someplace negative. To dwell means just to stay, to reside, even to live in this particular place. But that place can be positive, that place can be negative. It's your choice. Same thing with the mind. You can dwell just as much in positive thoughts and milk that energy just as much as we dwell in negative thoughts, and we milk and experience that energy, right? Where we start to just have more stress throughout the day, and those thoughts build up and compound upon each other, right? So these things, this is how this works. Now, when we start to come to terms with the fact that we can start to have more control over our minds, we can start to choose more happy emotions, start to choose to be happy in more conscious moments day to day. And we start to work that like a muscle, because the more we do it, the stronger we get at it. This is when that secret power of how to handle the ops comes in. Because now that you're starting to get control over your own mind, and now that you're starting to actually even get control over some of your own emotional realm, some of your own feelings, now you're going to have more control over your reactions. You're going to have more control over your perceptions and how you see the world. And the things, depending on where you're dwelling, again, if you're choosing to dwell in these negative feeling vibrations, these negative feeling energies, as opposed to these more positive feelings energies that might sustain, support you, and uplift you, that's going to taint your vision. That's going to taint your perception, right? So now if you're sitting in these negative energies, you have more reasons and you're having more triggers and more impetus that makes you feel there are people out to get you. There are people targeting you. There are all these negative aspects that are in your way that are blocking you. And this is not to say that there's not some truth to that reality. However, that does not have to stop us in our track. That does not have to break our momentum. That does not even have to affect our vibration if we choose not to let it, if we are strong enough to maintain who we are and where we're choosing to reside, where we're choosing to dwell. And so with that said, when it comes to the idea of the ops, it all starts in the mind. It all starts in that internal realm, even in the heart space, right? In that black or white, in that good or bad, in that do I like this, do I not? That is that internal struggle back and forth that is part of the human process. That is where we start to encounter the true opposition. And that true opposition is us. It's really us, in the sense that it's us as far as where we're choosing to be. If you're wanting to live a positive life, a good feeling life, a life that fulfills you and sustains you, but your mind is often in the stressful realms, your mind is often milking these darker thoughts, these fearful thoughts, you're never going to get over to the other side. And then that internal realm is constantly at war. You are your own freaking op, your own opposition. You are the biggest enemy, the biggest hindrance in your own. You are also your biggest strength, right? You are all of it when it comes to your experience. So let's not get that twisted. But with that said, the first and major op and the realest op we have to deal with when it comes to our lives day to day is ourselves. Once we start getting in control of the mind, and we get control over this emotional realm, and we start to clean up our internal landscape, what you come to find is that a lot of the opposition that we saw externally goes away. Once you start to clear up that war in the internal realm and all of the back and forth you have amongst yourself, you're shoring up your own solar plexus, your own sense of self, your own worthiness, then the judgments and the casting of stones of others truly will be like drops of water on a duck's back. Ducks are impervious to drops of water. They're pretty much waterproof. They're made to swim in the water as well as to fly, right? That is the beauty of ducks. And so a few drops of water is not going to fuck up the duck. It's not going to stop the duck from being able to fly. And so that is the same thing with what's happening with the internal realm. When you get that cleaned up and you get more control over that, it's very doable. I work with clients in my mentorships. I've done coaching. I've studied for many years. I've seen people, as well as in my own internal realm, going from a young, angry kid in the hood with a disability, severely limiting lifestyle, to making something out of myself, building myself up physically, to building a life that I could be proud of and accomplish with, right? And shifting my own internal realm from being bitter, resentful, hateful, feeling like the world owed me something, to this place of love, knowing that there's so much inside me to give, how much blessings I have to share with the world, right? And so as we shift in the mindset and we start to deal with that internal opposition, all external opposition, all external obstacles clear the way for our momentum. So keep that in mind when it comes to dealing with these haters, dealing with these oppositions. Recognize it's all a distraction. Everything outside of yourself, all of that energy that's happening, that's a distraction from the truth, from the real spiritual war, from the real haters and oppositions that you got to deal with, from the real obstacles you need to overcome in your life. Recognize that those real battles and struggles are happening within you. And instead of wasting your energy feeling like you need to spend all your time fighting the wars externally, start with the ones internally, because although they might sound difficult to overcome and a lot to learn and maintain, that is the battle that you actually can win. That is the battle you can make a difference in your life. And that is how you begin to make a difference in the world. So, it's your boy Zay-P, sending you lots of love. I'm out. Peace.